Hey there, Santino Pino here, and I'm in several videos in my series talking about BOP headlines. I have mentioned that a good recruiting tool would be that the Bureau of Prisons should allow their staff to have social media, like a YouTube channel, like this one, but where they can talk about their positive experiences. And what I want to do today is give a clear guide on how that can happen, but also talk about some of the policies currently restricting that. And also just the main thing that I'm also afraid of is that maybe a BOP staff member, sees the video, thinks that they can work around the policies and gets in trouble. And I definitely don't want that. Like I want everything to be done right, done correctly. And so let's do an overview of the BOP policies and then give some suggestions on how to fix on maybe some policy adjustments that could help repair that and help people get the good word out about having a career with the Bureau of Prisons. So the policies that govern this are split between just federal employee regulations and BOP specific regulations. And for this, I've separated them into four categories. I'm going to keep them on the screen the entire time. Key restrictions, major security concerns, common expectations, disclaimers, and reporting. Okay, so what do all these mean? First, key restrictions, just black and white. You can't do this, don't make this mistake. Okay, major security concerns. Now, this one is very obvious. There is absolutely no recording in there. We're going to get into that later, but major security concerns, obvious things that you cannot do. See, over here, you could just get in trouble for doing it. Over here, this is committing a crime. Right? So we'll get into that. Common expectations, ways that you need to carry yourself in a YouTube video if you're representing, and there is, they that can come back to you if you're not doing that correctly. We'll get into that, and then also disclaimers and reporting, making sure that the right disclaimers are put out there, and reporting content that should not be out there. Okay, should not be out there. And my the start of this conversation, you've heard me mention this YouTube channel a few times. I definitely think it's worth a watch if you're into aviation. Is Captain Steve, and Steve is spelt with three E's in the middle, so Steeeeve. Captain Steve, that's how he says it. Does a lot of um, aviation videos, way past NTSB investigations. Just a lot of air traffic control stuff and educational series. One of the things that he was very open about when he started his channel and as he retired from being a pilot at 65 is he how do I put this? He he had to navigate his career very carefully because he had started his YouTube channel while he was still a pilot. And so there were requirements where he could not say what airline he worked for. He could say what plane he flew, which didn't really narrow it down. The 737 is just a very common plane. So he talked about the requirements, and I think it's a good watch. He's never done really a deep dive on it, so you'd have to watch a few of his videos to get his idea on what he had to do, especially his early videos. But that's really the inspiration for this. Okay, let's jump into it. First, let's talk about some key restrictions. All right, let's talk about key restrictions. Number one, conflicts of interest. No outside activity that conflicts with official duties. Okay. You can't be performing your duties on YouTube. Like obviously, you can't be, shooting video inside the prison. We're going to get into that. But also, you can't have a conflict of interest where you're shooting videos or content while you are on BOP payroll in any way, shape, or form. Okay. So that's a conflict of interest right there. It's like you just can't do that. And there's a million examples of what a conflict of interest could be. When you run a YouTube channel, there's sponsorships, right? Um, and you have to be very careful with some of those sponsors because it could give an idea that you're doing something bad or that you're pushing a certain product or service or whatever. Um, and it's a very careful place that you need to navigate. Now, the thing is, if somebody's going to be allowed to be on YouTube, you need to allow them to create income with that. Like you have to allow them to work with either sponsors or a marketing company so that they can get ads that they shoot and create themselves for their videos. And also, you need to be able to allow them to grow their channel to a point that they can subscribe to AdSense, so they can be on, join the Google Partners program and be able to get paid from uploading YouTube videos from ads and get super likes and super comments and have super members and stuff like that. So, uh, avoiding conflict of interest, you can't use BOP imagery. Now, this is we're going to get into it, but as of right now, you can't use BOP imagery, logos, anything without written authorization. Okay. So I've known this rule for a while. So this is one of the biggest reasons why I've said they need to have an agreement where they'll allow, and by they, I mean the BOP executives need to have an agreement where, hey, you're going to follow these rules if you're going to talk about us on YouTube. But there's a trade-off. Every contract, there needs to be, bilateral stuff, right? So if you're giving them requirements, you need to, if you're saying, hey, you can't say this, this, or this, you're giving them a chance to represent you. You need to be able to allow them to say, hey, I am a BOP officer or I'm a BOP staff member, and have a limit to the information that they can share. They should not be able to share everything from their job. There's a reason for that. Okay. Um, and that leads into you have to avoid the appearance of official sanction. Okay, that's under the ethics policy. Okay, 2635, I think it is, right? But you cannot. Yeah, there's only one officially sanctioned YouTube channel or social media regarding the Bureau of Prisons, and it's the BOP official sites, like their YouTube channel, their Twitter account, their website. So you cannot, you're not an official sanction. There might be an agreement. And in all honesty, a lot of like some of the medical YouTubers, some of the medical educators on YouTube, they just open up. Like if you watch Derek at More Plates, More Dates, yes, I watch a lot of different YouTubes. Okay. But if you watch Derek at More Plates, More Dates, because he talks about performance enhancing drugs so much, he opens every one of his videos with a video disclaimer, the same one that he's played for years, about how he is just giving information. He's not suggesting this. He's not a medical professional, and anybody with the BOP needs to be able to put that disclaimer up as well, so that they're protected. Okay. So, and then of course, disclosing non-public info. All right, you cannot share inmate information. You can't share stuff inside. And really, what you want to do is you're sharing positive parts in a very general way. Like instead of saying, "Hey, I went to," and now what I'm about to say is completely fake, okay? Because I'm not going to say the real classes and stuff like that. But let's say that you are in your facility prep class, which is called IF or ICT. You're in your facility prep class, and they're going over different classes. I was thinking about naming them, but I'm not going to sit here and make up names. But you're going over the different classes. Okay, you can't name the classes. You can't talk about what you're learning in there, but you can talk about your excitement. You can talk about some of the cool stuff that the BOP has provided for you in a career. You can talk about your hours. All right. You can talk about, a lot of different things if allowed, if you were allowed. I'm not saying you're allowed right now. You are not. Okay. Do not, I can't, I'm going to say this a few times. Do not start a YouTube channel because you watch this. Okay. This is not a guide to starting a Bureau of Prisons YouTube channel. This is a guide for the Bureau of Prisons executives to start the process of allowing staff to do so. Okay, so I'm going to say it a few times in this video so nobody says, "Well, I did it. I did it because Santino told me to open up a YouTube channel." No, absolutely not. So do not share any type of proprietary or private information. So yeah, you're going to be limited. You're not going to be able to talk about everything, right? And really follow the same rules that I do. I don't work for the Bureau of Prisons, but I would never, ever, ever break that idea of security. And I'll be real, if I ever accidentally did in a video and didn't realize it and I went back or I got called out on it, I would just delete the video. I don't even want it out there. Okay. I don't care how many views it's getting. Okay. So key restrictions, those ones are pretty obvious, right? Major security concerns. Obviously, recording devices in facilities. Absolutely not. This will not change. Absolutely not. All of this needs to happen away from the facility. Okay. Away from the facility. In one example, I think in the previous video or whatever, I talked about maybe allowing a YouTube, if somebody had a YouTube channel and they're saying a day in the life of a federal corrections officer, and he's getting ready for work, and the last thing you see is him walking, from maybe the parking lot towards the front door of the facility, and then after 8 or 10 hours have passed, you see him walking out because there was nothing on there. I think that's the limit. I think that's the only shot, right, at a BOP facility that should ever be allowed, right? Just the front, right? Maybe a picture of it, who knows, just the front, just to let them know a facility. But that might not even be allowed to if they ever do allow it, which I doubt. I think this will fall on deaf ears. I really do. But absolutely no recording. I do not suggest, I do not condone. There is zero exception for this. Like, do not record inside of facilities, whether it's a secure facility or a camp or whatever. Do not record you doing your Bureau of Prisons job. They are paying you to do a job at that time. Okay. You owe that time to them, not to your personal recording. You're being paid to do a job at the Bureau of Prisons. Do your shift. Do your job. Okay. Unauthorized recording equipment is prohibited. And man, I remember a case on this one. Uh, there was a guy that I worked with that felt like he was, and it's similar to our last video, but not at the same time. He felt like he was being targeted. He felt like he was being wronged, and he snuck a recording device in. And sure enough, I will say he did record a conversation with the lieutenant, and it turned out that the officer was completely right. He was being targeted. He was being unfairly targeted. Um, Problem is, he introduced a recording equipment into the facility. So yeah, he might have been proven right, and maybe that little tiny write up went away, but he did lose his job instantly. Okay, so do not record yourself. Do not record yourself on BOP payroll at a BOP facility. Don't go there after hours. There's zero excuse. Have I been clear on that? Okay. All right. Common expectations. So this may be related to policy, it may not, but the first one is something called the nexus rule. Okay, discipline may occur when off-duty conduct has a clear nexus to job duties or agency mission. Okay, this is a very clear rule in the Bureau of Prisons, and this is why I've probably said, you should have a written agreement with your officers or staff members if they're going to have a YouTube channel. Okay, that they need to have a written agreement. This is why. It's not to protect the agency, it's protect the content creator. Okay? Because there is the nexus rule. The nexus rule, again, discipline may occur when off-duty conduct has a clear nexus to job duties or agency mission. And are you kidding me? If you do something outside the scope of your duties, you can get in trouble for that. Okay? Especially if it's related to your job duties. So if you're running a Bureau of Prisons channel and you do something that is against, per se, this imaginary written agreement that I'm suggesting that the Bureau of Prisons has, if you do something against that, you could get in trouble. Okay. Of course, there's the battle of, was it intentional? Was it unintentional? That should be very clearly, that should be clearly written out by the attorneys, not me. I'm not an attorney. But the nexus rule is probably the biggest thing that would prevent it, even if all of this other stuff wasn't a factor. The nexus rule, the fact that if you do anything related to your career outside of work and do it bad, you can't get written up. Now, here's the thing. I get it. You have professional standards that we're going to talk about here in a second, but you have professional standards when you are in law enforcement. You have a certain adherence to the law that you need to have. So the nexus rule is something I support. BOP, you don't need to get rid of that. In all honesty, I don't think I've ever seen. There could be some, but I don't think any time I've ever seen enforcement of the nexus rule went above and beyond what it should have. Okay, that it's always been in place and enforced in the right way, and it's there to protect everybody, everyone. Okay, so making sure you don't do something like that. But this right here, the nexus rule is probably the main reason that you would need a written agreement for that. Now, I do want to say you can have a YouTube channel, okay? You just, no one can know that you're in the Bureau of Prisons. Like, no one can know anything about that as of the way that the policies are worded and wired and webbed together, right? In this one, weave together is probably the better one. So Professionalism, content that undermines professionalism, safety, typo, respect may result in discipline. So you have to maintain professionalism. Again, if you're representing the Bureau of Prisons, like use my channel as an example. Okay. So when you look at my long form videos like this one, I talk like this. I'm just having a conversation. I'm not over the top. I'm not going for clickbait. Okay. I'm not doing any of that. I'm being a professional. However, if you look at my shorts, in some of the content that I have that is unrelated to the Bureau of Prisons, like my fitness content, or I have some motivational content too, just in the shorts, uh, that I have a little bit of fun with. You know, I'm in a tank top, I'm in the gym, I'm doing fun stuff, I'm doing stupid stuff, whatever, right? Um, it's unrelated to my BOP videos. So if you just watch my shorts, you would have no idea that I do BOP videos. And if you do BOP videos, unless you stick around to the end and see the suggested playlist, you don't see the other stuff, right? So that professionalism needs to be on there. You cannot be doing a Bureau of Prisons video and cussing up a storm and showing NSFW content and all that stuff. No, there is a standard. Okay, there's a standard there that you need to adhere to if this is something that you are eventually able to do. Okay. Public confidence. Employees are expected to avoid contact. Uh, there, I'm not sure what happened here. Obviously, I had ChatGPT do a cleanup, and I didn't catch the whatever language that is that came through. It's just a ChatGPT having a brain fart that day. But public confidence, you are expected to avoid contact with inmate families. Now, this is the real risk out there, and this is why a lot uh, of BOP staff members either don't have social media, or if they do have social media, oftentimes they are under a completely different name, a pseudonym that you would know that I was for a long time. For a very long time, I was a different name on social media. Really, as soon as I opened my business, I became Santino Pino again on social media. But I had a lot of faceless accounts back then because I just couldn't. The only exception was because I was coaching a baseball team with some of the kids from that were some of the kids of parents that worked at the facility. I did start a Facebook back then so I could upload those videos, but that was the limit of my social media exposure back then. Now I'm everywhere, now I'm recording myself, here. So, maintaining public confidence. But yeah, inmate families will find your content. They will watch that content. I watch all of the Bureau of Prisons content, even some of the reaction videos or, the stuff that's not produced and created by BOP, critiquers that are out there. And I see a lot of inmate families that get in the comments, and it's always kind of extreme, right? It's always extreme. Well, that's not what happened. He's getting beat up every day or whatever. Like a lot of false reports that come through there. Like you just need to be aware that that's a possibility that they'll be able to locate you and find you. Like I have a very public presence, so yeah, you could find where my office is. You might not find where I'm at, but that there's a publicly listed address where my business location is, right? So you just have to know that ahead of time. So if inmate families are looking for you, go out there. Now, can you create content under a pseudonym? Yeah, okay. But then if again, you can't do any BOP content, just a reminder, but if in the future you're able to and you're doing it under a pseudonym, it's probably going to be under whatever agreement under the Nexus rule. Okay. So kind of long-winded on common expectations, but all those to me, they make sense. Okay. Those to me make sense. Okay. Disclaimers and reporting. Okay. Recommended disclaimer, views are my own. It's often recommended, but does not eliminate responsibility. That's actually from DOG social media guidance. Because there are content creators in the federal government that are approved, just none in the Bureau of Prisons, none. And that should change. Okay. We are in an era of social media where a YouTube reel could be one of the biggest things, that could help you get fully staffed in the Bureau of Prisons. And then you do have a duty to report. So I listen, if you see somebody pumping content that they shouldn't have out there, even if it's not something that you might think is a security risk or might not, you should report it. Okay. If somebody is creating YouTube content or video content that is dangerous to the Bureau of Prisons or dangerous to staff, where they're giving information that they shouldn't have, it needs to be reported. Okay. I just want to say one more time a disclaimer, right? If you're working for the Bureau of Prisons, you are not allowed to have a YouTube channel ever mentioning Bureau of Prisons corrections, your career in any way, shape, or form that you're an employee. You are not. Okay. Have I made that clear 1,000 times in this video? You can count how many times I did it. Maybe I did it 1,000. Who knows? Okay. You are not. But I wanted this video to go over just some ideas of what if in the future it is permitted and allowed, what that could look like. Okay, what it could look like. And maybe it's a video similar to mine. Now, albeit, yeah, my last video uh, was a little bit less on par with BOP in the headlines and more about a disagreement regarding retirement targeting in your last 3 years. And that was almost like a criticism, but I did it as a discussion topic. And the first thing that I said in that video was, I'm going to shoot this video under the assumption that it is not intentional, but it does exist. The idea of it does exist, right? I did open up with, if it is intentional, it just needs to stop. It needs to be investigated. The people that have been hurt need to be paid, and then you move on. Okay. But then I went on to, if it's not intentional, let's come up with some reasons as to why it might not be intentional and how it could look intentional, right? And so I'm always trying to be positive, and it'd be something I'd be willing to help out with. I really would, because I've said it 1,000 times. I wanted to see the BOP thrive. I want to see the BOP thrive. I want it to be a great agency, a great career that people enjoy. And if you're working there, I hope you're enjoying your career. And if you're not, I want you to know that I want you to have a better career, and I want everybody to have a good career. And there's always going to be room for improvement. There always is. Okay. There's never going to be a time when the BOP reaches its perfect form. Okay. Because there's always going to be room for improvement. It's going to be something that breaks. But there is hope right now that the BOP is on the right path of growth and a fully staffed agency. So appreciate you sticking around for this one. Again, don't go start a YouTube channel about the BOP. Don't do it. Not yet. Not yet. Let some powers that be get a hold of this, have a conversation, see if it can happen. But I think it'd be great. So please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Got to get the channel to 1,000 subscribers, and if you can help me do that, I would very much appreciate that. If you subscribe because of this video, let me know in the comments. Right. And then also, as always, if you have any TSP questions, call me. My phone number will flash on the screen at the end of the video. Give me a call. Let's have a discussion about TSP if you would like to. But thank you so much for your time today, and I will see you next time. BOP is in the headlines. Have a great day.